Imagine two countries in a serious dispute. One claims ownership over a territory, while the others insist that it belongs to them. Now, going to war would be costly and dangerous. However, bringing the case before a neutral body would be more civilized option. This is where the interstate arbitration comes in. Good day, everyone. My name is Nelson, and today I'll be discussing how sovereign states resolve disputes peacefully through arbitration. I will also be discussing about the role of the permanent court or of arbitration, or that's what we call the PCA, as well as the legal basis of jurisdiction and how this process has affected the Philippines, well, particularly in the South China Sea arbitration, which is so relevant. Now, before we proceed further, let us first begin with the basics and the fundamentals. When we say interstate arbitration, it refers to the settlement of disputes between sovereign states through arbitrators chosen by the parties themselves. So I think it is important to note here that the parties will have the choice who will be the arbitrators to mediate with whatever conflicts they have. Now, unlike in ordinary court cases involving probably individuals or corporations, perhaps, the parties here are the governments. Okay? Now, the governing framework is not domestic law. So we're not following municipal laws here. However, we are following the concept of the public international law. So, in simple terms, it is a peaceful and rules based way for nations to resolve disagreements, of course, without resorting to force. Now, one of the most important part of this topic is the principle of consent, which I would say the very heart of this topic. The most important principle of interstate arbitration is consent. Why? Because no state can be forced into arbitration against its will. And this is often called the golden rule, in fact. Again, this is the golden rule of the international arbitration. Because when there is consent, then that vests jurisdiction over the body to take cognizance of the mediation. And there are actually two ways to give out consent. The first way would be through a compromise, which is a special agreement entered into by or into after a dispute arises. Again, that's first through a compromise, which is a special agreement entered into after a dispute arises. And then the second one would be through a compromissory clause. A compromissory clause, it is a provision already found in a treaty when the states agree in advance that future disputes may be arbitrated. So again, an important to note in this slide here, without consent, there is generally no jurisdiction. And for us to understand better about the interstate arbitration, let me just bring you back to the historical landmarks of this topic. In the current days or in the modern system of interstate arbitration, it can be traced back to the 1899 and 1907 Hague Conventions. So these conventions established procedures for the peaceful settlement of international disputes, and eventually it led to the creation of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, or the PCA, in The Hague. And then more than a century later, the PCA, or the Permanent Court of Arbitration, remains one of the leading institutions for resolving dispute between states. Now let us understand more about the PCA. So despite its name, the Permanent Court of Arbitration is actually not a permanent court with standing judges. So do not think of it as the usual courtrooms that you see. Instead, it serves as an administrative institution that facilitates arbitration proceedings. So there are key functions that's being conducted by the PCA, and these functions include first the providing administrative and secretariat support. Think of them as a sort of like a registry. Second, assisting with procedural matters. And lastly, ensuring neutrality by offering a forum independent from domestic courts of any particular country, which is the most important part of their function. Again, it's by ensuring neutrality by offering a forum independent from the domestic courts of any particular country. So again, think of the PCA as the organizer and administrator of the arbitration process. Now, the next question that you probably have in mind would be, where do we draw now the sources of jurisdiction? So jurisdiction is the authority in the concept of the public international law. Jurisdiction is the authority of a tribunal to hear a case. Question how jurisdiction is actually being acquired. Now, in the concept of an interstate arbitration, jurisdiction comes from the consent of the parties. Again, this is a very important part of this topic. Jurisdiction comes from the consent of the parties. So, no consent, no jurisdiction. And then again, this consent or these consent may arise from special agreements or compromissory clauses found in treaties. One of the examples of the treaties would be the On Clause or the United Nations Conventions on the Laws of the Seas, and optional declarations where state accepts jurisdiction in advance because they can actually stipulate treaties with terms and conditions in advance, like if in case there are some dispute that may arise in the future, then both parties agree to blah 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 to provide consent to wherever they want to bring that particular matter to. And then without a valid basis of jurisdiction, the tribunal again cannot proceed. Now, say for example, we have the consent, both parties are ready to do the arbitration process. What's going to be the scenario, how it's going to look like during the arbitral process? So let me bring you to the arbitral life cycle. An interstate arbitration generally follows five stages. So the first is the notification. Okay, let me just go to that slide. Again, the interstate arbitration generally follows five stages. So the first one would be the notification. So what happens during notification? So where one state formally initiates proceedings, that is the notification. After that is the constitution. This is where the arbitral tribunal is formed. And after that is the jurisdiction. Given that, when the tribunal is formed, of course they already have chosen their arbitrators, and then they freely gave their consent to the arbitration. There is now what we call the jurisdiction from the concept of interstate arbitration process. And once there is a jurisdiction, the tribunal determines whether it has authority to hear and dispute the matter. And fourth is the merits, where evidence and legal arguments are presented. And finally, there is the award, which is the tribunal's final decision. So this process ensures fairness and due process and equal participation by both parties. And right now, the tribunal composition under the Annex 7 of the United Nations Conventions on the Laws of the Seas, a tribunal typically consists of five arbitrators. So each party appoints one arbitrator. The remaining members are neutral arbitrators, which are actually chosen jointly or appointed through an agreed mechanism. The president of the tribunal is always a neutral figure, and then the structure is designed to promote impartiality and confidence in the process. And you might wanna ask, and you might wanna wonder, what is the Philippine context in terms of the participation in the interstate tribunal arbitration, or that particular body? So perhaps the most famous for Filipino is the case of the Philippines versus China, right? So in 2013, the Philippines initiated arbitration under the On Clause concerning disputes over the South China Sea, and that's actually still on the table. Now, in 2016, 3 years right after they initiated the arbitration process, the tribunal issued its award. And among its finding, it ruled, in fact, that China, so-called the nine dash line, had no legal basis under the on clause. So the case demonstrated how a smaller state can use international law and arbitration to peacefully assert its right against a much bigger or larger power. In this case, is China. Now, I mentioned earlier that the interstate arbitration is quite different from a domestic or commercial arbitration. In the slide here, I put a comparison between the commercial arbitration and the interstate arbitration based on different features. First, in terms of parties, the commercial arbitrations, we're talking about individuals and corporations, whereas in interstate arbitrations, we're talking about sovereign states only. Okay. And then for the sources of law, so the commercial arbitration, we are following the municipal or domestic law, or it could be contract governing that particular matter or case as reference of the disputes. While in the interstate arbitration, we are following the public international law. In terms of enforcement, in the commercial arbitration, we're following the domestic courts, or that's going to be under domestic court. And then the interstate arbitrations, we are under the enforcement of a diplomatic pressure or responsibility. And lastly, um, the parties for the commercial arbitrations private, and then the nature of the interstate arbitration is international in nature. So it is important not to confuse interstate arbitration with commercial arbitration. So commercial arbitration usually involves private parties such as a corporation and individuals again, and then interstate arbitration involves sovereign states. And as of the current, in terms of global participation, the importance of interstate arbitration can be seen in its widespread acceptance. In fact, as of today, more than 120 states participate in the Hague Convention framework. Now, this number reflects the international community commitment to the peaceful settlement of disputes. So instead of resorting to military confrontation, which of course we don't want to happen, states are increasingly encouraged to resolve conflicts through law, diplomacy, and arbitration. And right now, the Philippine participation is that we have been a contracting party to the 1907 Hague Convention. We are, in fact, an active participant in PCA proceedings and nominations of arbitrators. And we have a strong policy advocate, or we are a strong policy advocate for the on clause based disputes. So to conclude, so interstate arbitration is a peaceful mechanism for resolving disputes between sovereign states. It is found on the consent governed by international law or the public international law and supported by institutions such as the Permanent Court of Arbitrations. And most importantly, one thing that you have to remember, it demonstrates that even complex international disputes can be addressed through legal processes rather than force. And as the Philippine experienced the South China Sea arbitration, it shows international law remains a powerful tool for protecting the national and maintaining international order. So thank you. And should you have any questions arising after this presentation, because this is pre-recorded, you can just reach out to me. And I would like to end this presentation with this quote here: in a world where nations possess armies and weapons, interstate arbitration reminds us that the strongest instrument of peace is still the rule of law. Thank you so much for your attention, everyone. Have a good day.